In this video, we will learn how to create perfect loop animations in After Effects. This technique can be used for abstract animations, icons, elements, illustrations, backgrounds, and more. There are two ways to create a loop animation. You can use a loop expression or copy and paste keyframes. There are some properties for which the loop expression does not work, such as path. In this case, you can either copy and paste keyframes or find an expression that works for path properties. First, switch the time display of the composition to frames for convenience. Now it shows the frame where our time indicator is located. In the composition settings, we can see the total duration of our composition in frames. Let's create an ellipse. We can animate any property. To loop the animation, add a loop out expression. Adding ping-pong in parentheses creates a ping-pong loop. Using continue will make the animation continue after the last keyframe instead of looping. Now let's create another keyframe and talk about the rules. There are 4 rules to creating perfect loop animations. Let's go over them one by one. The layer being animated should look the same at the beginning and end of the animation. We can add as many keyframes as we want between the first and last keyframes, but the layer should look the same in the first and last keyframes. One way to ensure this is to copy the value of the first keyframe and paste it into the last keyframe. Another option is to take a snapshot of the first keyframe. We can then use this snapshot as a reference to adjust the value of the last keyframe so that the layer looks the same. Now let's make the animation smoother. Of course, our animation can have more than one animated property. For example, let's animate the scale. Now let's talk about the second rule. It's similar to rule 1, but it applies to the entire composition. The scene should look the same at the beginning and end of the composition. If it doesn't, we can fix it using the method we will discuss in rule 3. Rule 3 ensures that the animations are the correct length. What does it mean? When creating animations, consider the duration of the animations for each property. Each animation starts with the first keyframe and ends with the last. In this example, these two animations have a duration of 40 frames. Now let's look at the duration of the entire composition. Our composition is 300 frames long. Divide the duration of the composition by the duration of the animation of the property. The resulting number must be an integer. If it is not, as in our case, try to find a duration that would result in an integer. For example, 30 or 50 frames would work for a 300 frame composition. We can now use these durations for our animations. Adjust the keyframes so that the animation is either 30 or 50 frames long, depending on whether you want the animation to be faster or slower. Play the composition again. Now the composition is looped. All animated properties should follow this rule. However, this does not mean that all properties should have the same duration. Different properties may have different durations. It just means the result should be an integer. In our case, for example, both 50 and 30 frame durations work well. Rather than adjusting the keyframes, you can also change the duration of the composition. The original duration of our properties was 40 frames. Now let's see what numbers work for the duration of the composition. Okay, 280 frames works, and it's also close to our original duration. Let's go with that. Our animation is currently boring because there are no delays between properties. Let's add some delays between properties. However, we must ensure that the loop expression is applied before the first keyframe. The default loop out does not repeat the animation before the first keyframe. Use this expression if you want the animation to loop before the first keyframe. As an alternative option, we can leave the expression unchanged and simply move the keyframes to a point before the start of the composition. We can also duplicate the layer and add delays between layers. Now let me show you how to apply delays to precompositions. Let's duplicate the precomposition, change its color and add a delay between the two precompositions. Enable time remapping for this composition layer and add the same expression to the time remap property. When we precompose layers and want to add a delay between multiple precompositions, we can use time remap and apply the same loop expression to it. You can create an infinite number of precompositions, by the way, and make different types of abstract shape animations. Not only that, but you can also use this technique to create loop animations for icons, illustrations, backgrounds, and so on. You can create different animations by duplicating a layer, then rotating it or changing its position, scale, color, and other properties. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you want to see more videos in the future, subscribe, like and leave a comment. That way YouTube will push this video more. Thank you for watching and bye. See you next time.